My wife's brutal cheating exposed. She called me boring. My brutal revenge plan left her shattered, and her entire world crashed. You won't believe what I did. Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Guys, I'm absolutely shattered, completely broken. My entire world, everything I thought was real, just imploded in the most spectacular, soul-crushing way imaginable. I never thought I'd be posting here. Honestly, always thought we were different. Like those relationship horror stories. Nah, not us. We were Mark and Sarah, high school sweethearts, practically inseparable for 15 years, 10 of them married. We built a decent life, good jobs, a house, the whole suburban dream. Kids were always someday, you know? Our perfect little future. But for the last 6 months, things have been off. Really off. It wasn't a sudden blow-up or anything. Just this creeping, insidious coldness that started seeping into every corner of our lives. She used to be so vibrant, so full of laughter, always planning our next adventure or a cozy night in. Now, it's like living with a ghost, or worse, someone who actively avoids eye contact. Her phone became an extension of her hand, glued to it, always texting, always scrolling, always with her back to me. Every time I try to talk, to connect, she'd just sigh. Can we not, Mark? I'm exhausted. Or worse, you're being needy. Give me some space. She used to love our little rituals, our coffee in the morning, our evening walks. Now it was all I'm rushing, or I have a meeting, or I'm just too tired. I tried to give her the benefit of the doubt, told myself it was work stress, maybe a bit of a rut. But the gut feeling, that raw, persistent dread, it wouldn't let go. It screamed that something was fundamentally wrong. I tried everything, guys. I really did. Flowers, surprise date nights, even booked a weekend getaway to that B&B we loved for our anniversary. She shot down every single one. The flowers withered on the counter. She forgot about the date nights, saying she had work commitments she couldn't reschedule. The B&B trip? Mark, seriously? I told you I'm swamped. Do you ever listen? It was like I was speaking a different language. She started dressing differently too. More expensive lingerie, new clothes I'd never seen, always for work or just a sale. She was also suddenly obsessed with hitting the gym, which, great for her, but it felt performative. Not for her health, but like she was trying to impress someone. Her phone became a locked vault. She'd take it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. And if I accidentally saw a notification pop up, it was always some generic work group chat, or at least that's what she'd snap. One night, I woke up around 2 a.m., couldn't sleep. She wasn't in bed. I found her in the living room, whispering into her phone, absolutely livid when she saw me. She claimed she was on a call with a client in a different time zone, but her voice dropped like she'd been caught doing something illicit, and she practically slammed the phone down. The lies were getting clumsier, more frequent. It was like living with a stranger who occasionally wore my wife's face. The constant gaslighting, the dismissive attitude, it was chipping away at my sanity. The dam finally broke about 3 weeks ago. I came home early from work, a rare occurrence for me, because I had a killer migraine. Sarah usually works late on Tuesdays, so I figured I'd have the house to myself to just crash. I walked in, and there were shoes I didn't recognize by the door. Men's shoes. A pair of really expensive loafers, actually. My heart started hammering against my ribs, an ice-cold dread gripping my stomach. I stood there, frozen, for what felt like an eternity, trying to rationalize it. Maybe she had a client meeting at home? A friend? But the shoes felt too intimate, too permanent. I walked further into the house, and as I got closer to the bedroom, I started to hear sounds. Low guttural moans. Not from Sarah. And another voice, a man's voice. That's when it hit me like a freight train. My knees buckled. I leaned against the wall, trying to breathe, trying to make sense of the noise, the shoes, the sudden, horrifying reality. It was unmistakably the sounds of them together. In my bed, in our bed, the world tilted on its axis. The air left my lungs. My entire body went numb, then instantly, furiously hot. I felt a rage building inside me, a primal, violent urge I didn't even know I possessed. It was like every single suspicion, every uneasy feeling, every dismissed excuse had coalesced into this one brutal, undeniable moment of pure, unadulterated betrayal. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I didn't even move for a long minute. Just stood there, listening to the guttural sounds coming from our bedroom, feeling like I was watching my own death. My mind was reeling, trying to catch up with the sheer magnitude of what I was hearing. It wasn't just a fleeting kiss, it wasn't just a flirtation. This was intimate, deeply, sickeningly intimate. The sounds were raw, animalistic, and they were echoing in the house that was supposed to be our sanctuary. A house we built together, furnished together, dreamt in together. And she was defiling it, defiling us, with someone else. Then, a sudden silence. A muffled laugh, then Sarah's voice, clear as day. "Oh, you're so much better than Mark, babe. He's so boring in bed. And predictable. You really know how to make me feel alive." That sentence, that one, casual, cruel sentence. It snapped something inside me. The numbness vanished, replaced by a blinding, white-hot fury. My vision swam. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms until it hurt. Asterisk boring in bed. Predictable? Asterisk after 15 years? After all the times I tried to keep things fresh, to make her happy, to be everything she wanted? All the times she said she was tired, she was stressed, she didn't feel like it? It wasn't about being tired, it was about being with him. I walked into the bedroom. Slowly, deliberately. They were tangled in the sheets, barely covered. Her face, flushed and sated, turned to the door. Her eyes widened, a flicker of pure terror crossing her features as she saw me standing there. The man, a total stranger, a smarmy-looking dude with a terrible haircut, looked up, startled, his eyes darting between me and Sarah. The air in the room was thick with sex, and now, with an unbearable tension. Her initial reaction was priceless, in a completely stomach-churning way. She didn't even try to deny it. There was no "it's not what it looks like. No, he's just a friend." Just pure, unadulterated panic. "Mark, what are you doing home?" She shrieked, scrambling to cover herself, her face going from flushed to stark white. Like I was the intruder in my own damn house. The other guy, looking like a deer caught in headlights, was fumbling to pull on his pants, mumbling apologies. I ignored him completely. My eyes were fixed on her. "What am I doing home?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper, a terrifying calm masking the volcano erupting inside me. "I live here, Sarah. Or did you forget that? Along with your wedding vows, our entire life, and apparently, my existence." She started to cry, those crocodile tears I've come to know so well. "Mark, please, it's not what you think. It's just a mistake. A one-time thing. I swear." The words tumbled out, pathetic and desperate. I just stared at her, an empty, hollow ache spreading through my chest. A one-time thing? After all the lies, the phone, the sudden secrecy, the exhaustion? The guy, bless his idiotic heart, finally managed to get dressed and tried to interject. "Look, man, I'm really sorry. I didn't know she was married. She told me she was separated." Sarah rounded on him. "Gary, shut up." Then turned back to me, her voice suddenly shrill. "He's lying, Mark. He knew. He totally manipulated me. He told me you wouldn't care." It was a masterclass in gaslighting and blaming, all rolled into one beautiful, hideous package. She looked me in the eye and said, "I was going to tell you, Mark. I swear. I was so confused. You've been so distant lately, so wrapped up in your work. I felt neglected." Neglected? Me? After all the times I tried to reach out, tried to fix things, tried to talk to her? I almost laughed. It was beyond insulting. It was a complete obliteration of my reality, my feelings, my very being. The sadness started to creep in, overshadowing the initial rage. A deep, gut-wrenching grief for the person I thought I knew, the life I thought we had. Please remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're finding this helpful or relatable. It really helps me out. I just stood there, watching her spin her web of lies, her pathetic attempts to deflect blame, to somehow make me the villain in this twisted drama. My head was throbbing from the migraine that was now completely forgotten, replaced by a much deeper, soul-crushing pain. The words "boring in bed" and "predictable" echoed in my mind, a constant, vicious loop. 15 years. 15 years of my life, my love, my trust, all reduced to a casual dismissal for some cheap thrill with a stranger. It wasn't just the act itself, it was the utter contempt, the cold calculation in her lies, the complete disrespect for everything we built. The immediate shock started to wear off, replaced by a chilling clarity. All those signs, All those ignored gut feelings suddenly clicked into place with agonizing precision. The sudden gym obsession, the new lingerie, the secretive phone calls, the late nights, the emotional distance. It wasn't stress, it was deceit. It was a conscious, deliberate choice to betray me, not once, but repeatedly. Gary, the other guy, wisely decided to make himself scarce. He mumbled another weak apology to me, grabbed his stuff, and practically ran out the door, leaving Sarah and me alone in the wreckage of our bedroom. The silence after he left was deafening, punctuated only by Sarah's sniffling and desperate attempts to catch my eye. I still couldn't speak. My throat felt constricted, my voice locked away behind a wall of anguish. I just kept staring at her, seeing her not as the woman I married, but as a stranger, a betrayer, a person who had systematically dismantled my world without a second thought. The profound sense of loss was overwhelming. It wasn't just the loss of a wife. It was the loss of a future, the loss of shared dreams, the loss of trust in the one person I had believed was my absolute anchor. It was like looking at the ruins of a city I had once called home, now completely obliterated. I turned and walked out of the bedroom, not saying a single word. I couldn't. My voice was gone, lost somewhere in the abyss of my shattered heart. Sarah followed me, pleading, crying, "Mark, please, talk to me. Don't just walk away." But I kept walking straight out of the house, grabbing my keys and wallet from the hook by the door without even realizing I was doing it. I got into my car and just drove. Anywhere. Nowhere. I ended up at a desolate park bench overlooking the lake, the kind of place you go when you just need to scream into the void. The sun was setting, painting the sky in fiery oranges and purples, completely oblivious to the utter devastation within me. I sat there for hours, the cold biting at my skin, but I felt nothing. My mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, yes, but mostly a profound, heartbreaking sadness. A deep, aching sense of loss for the love I thought we had, the future I thought was ours. It felt like a death. The death of 15 years, of a shared history, of a person I thought I knew. I replayed every conversation, every argument, every moment of doubt, now seeing them through this new, horrifying lens. Every "I'm tired," every "can we not?" felt like a dagger twisting in an open wound. She hadn't been tired. She'd been emotionally invested elsewhere. She hadn't been stressed. She'd been plotting. The sheer depth of the deception was unfathomable. It wasn't just a physical betrayal. It was an emotional massacre, a complete disregard for my feelings, my well-being, our entire shared existence. I realized then that I wasn't just grieving for our marriage. I was grieving for the illusion of it, for the lie I had been living for months, maybe even years. The pain was so intense it felt physical, a crushing weight on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I cried until there were no more tears left, until my eyes were swollen and gritty, and my soul felt utterly, irrevocably empty. The next morning, I went back to the house. The air was thick with tension, heavier than any silence I'd ever experienced. Sarah was still there, looking utterly wrecked, sitting on the edge of the sofa, her face puffy and tear-streaked. She tried to approach me, to talk, to touch me, but I flinched away, unable to bear her proximity. Her touch felt like poison. "Mark, please," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "Let's talk. I can explain everything. It was a mistake, a stupid, terrible mistake. I regret it more than anything." I looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized something profound. Her tears, her regret, it wasn't about hurting me. It was about getting caught. It was about the comfortable life she was about to lose. Her concern wasn't for my pain, but for her own consequences. That realization solidified a terrifying resolve within me. The sadness was still there, a dull ache, but the initial gut-wrenching pain had morphed into something colder, harder. "Explain what, Sarah?" My voice was flat, devoid of emotion, even to my own ears. "Explain how I'm tired really meant I'm with him? Explain how you're being needy really meant I don't care about you anymore? Explain how you're boring in bed really meant I'm actively seeking validation elsewhere, and I hate you for not giving it to me, even though I push you away?" I didn't wait for her answer. I knew there wouldn't be one that satisfied me. I walked past her, went to our bedroom, and started systematically, calmly, packing a bag. Just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop, a few books. She followed me, begging, pleading, promising anything and everything. Mark, don't do this. Please. We can fix this. I love you. I swear I love you. I paused, holding a worn t-shirt, and finally turned to face her. No, Sarah, I said, my voice still eerily calm. You don't love me. You love what I provide. You love the comfort, the stability, the image. You never loved me. The words felt like they were ripping my own throat apart, but they needed to be said. This isn't a mistake, Sarah. This is who you are, and I can't live with that. I finished packing, zipped up the bag, and walked out the door without looking back. I went to a hotel just to get away, to breathe, to exist in a space that wasn't tainted by her betrayal. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but in that moment, it felt like the only path to survival. The days that followed were a blur of numb existence. I took a few days off work, just told them it was a personal emergency. I ate instant noodles, slept fitfully, and stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every painful memory. Sarah called, texted, emailed relentlessly. I ignored it all. The anger was still there, simmering beneath the surface, but it was overshadowed by an almost clinical detachment. I was trying to process, trying to understand how someone could so thoroughly dismantle a life and claim it was just a mistake. But then something shifted. The sadness started to recede, replaced by a colder, more calculated anger. She got to play the victim, while I was left picking up the pieces. The more I thought about it, the more I realized her actions weren't just a betrayal. They were an insult, a public humiliation, even if only public, to me and her pathetic affair partner. She didn't just cheat. She flaunted it, in our home, in our bed, with such blatant disregard for me. The gaslighting, the lies, the projection of her own faults onto me. It was all a carefully constructed facade to enable her selfish desires. I started making calls. Not to her, not to friends, but to a lawyer. A good one, specializing in high-asset divorces. I wanted to protect myself, financially and emotionally. But as I spoke to him, outlining our assets, our shared life, I started thinking about more than just a clean break. I started thinking about justice. Not just legal justice, but something that would truly make her understand the depth of her actions. Something that would make her feel just a fraction of the pain she inflicted on me. The thought was intoxicating, a dark little spark igniting in the ashes of my ruined life. And if you're finding this story gripping, please do me a solid and subscribe to the channel and like this video. It helps me share more real, raw experiences like this. My lawyer was excellent, methodical, and completely unemotional, which was exactly what I needed. He laid out all the options, the legal implications, the potential costs. As he spoke, a plan began to form in my mind, a brutal mosaic of retribution. I wasn't interested in dragging this out in court, but I was interested in making sure she felt the full weight of her choices. I decided not to tell her I was filing for divorce immediately. Instead, I moved back into the guest room at the house. I know, crazy right? But I needed to be there. I needed to gather evidence, and I needed to observe. Sarah, predictably, was overjoyed. She saw it as a sign of reconciliation. She hovered, tried to cook my favorite meals, left little notes. It was nauseatingly fake. I just nodded, offered terse one-word answers, and kept my distance, feigning emotional trauma and confusion. I just need time, Sarah, I'd say, staring blankly ahead. This is a lot to process. She fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. She started going out again, claiming she needed therapy or girl time, always with her phone glued to her hand. I knew exactly what that meant, and I let her. I even encouraged it. You deserve to de-stress, honey, I'd say, a small, chilling smile playing on my lips. While she was out, I was working. I installed hidden cameras in strategic places around the house, not in the bedroom, but in the living room and entryway, to catch her comings and goings and any unexpected guests. I set up keyloggers on her computer, an old one she rarely used, but one she'd occasionally check. And most importantly, I started making copies of everything. Financial statements, emails, text messages I'd previously dismissed as work. I even managed to get access to her iCloud after remembering a password she'd once jokingly told me. What I found confirmed my darkest suspicions. More than just Gary, there were multiple friends, colleagues, gym buddies. A whole secret life, a brutal landscape of casual betrayals. The rage intensified, morphing into a cold, focused determination. This wasn't just about divorce anymore. This was about exposing the truth, about making sure her carefully constructed facade crumbled into dust. The discovery of her multiple affairs was a punch to the gut, but also a clarifying moment. It wasn't just Gary, it was a pattern. She wasn't just confused. She was a serial cheater, a predator in a tailored suit. My feigned healing process gave her the confidence to continue her clandestine activities, thinking I was too broken to notice, too naive to suspect. She started staying out later, sometimes not coming home until the early hours. When she did, she'd offer flimsy excuses, blaming traffic, late meetings, or spontaneous girls' nights that magically ended past 3 a.m. I'd just nod, a look of tired understanding on my face, while inside, the fires of vengeance burned brighter. One Friday, she announced she was going on a yoga retreat with her best friend from work, a woman I'd never met. She'd be gone for the entire weekend. This was my window. I knew where her secret burner phone was hidden, under a loose floorboard in her closet, a detail she'd once drunkenly joked about during our honeymoon phase. I retrieved it, bypassing the simple passcode she used, and what I found confirmed everything. Photos, explicit messages, detailed plans for rendezvous, not just with Gary, but with several other men, including one particularly wealthy client she'd always fawned over. She even had a small savings account, funded by gifts from these men, clearly a rainy day fund for her secret life. It was sickening, but also incredibly useful. I meticulously downloaded everything, creating backups, saving screenshots, and compiling it all into an organized dossier. The sheer volume of evidence was staggering. It painted a picture of a woman who had been living a double life for years, not months. The betrayal wasn't just brutal. It was systematic, cold, and calculated. She wasn't just a cheat. She was a master manipulator, a professional liar. The final pieces of my plan clicked into place. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this with her dignity or her carefully curated reputation intact. She had sown the wind, and now she would reap the whirlwind. My heart was cold, my mind clear. When Sarah returned from her yoga retreat on Sunday evening, she looked refreshed, almost glowing. She brought me a small, meaningless souvenir, a ceramic love coaster, which I accepted with a vacant smile. "How was your retreat, honey?" I asked, my voice flat, betraying none of the storm brewing beneath the surface. "So relaxing, Mark. Exactly what I needed to clear my head," she chirped, kissing me on the cheek. I barely registered the touch. The next morning, Monday, I acted. Before she left for work, I called her into the living room. She came in, looking slightly annoyed, probably expecting another heart-to-heart, where I'd just stare at her. Instead, I handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "Divorce papers," I stated, my voice devoid of any emotion. Her face drained of color. "What? Mark, no? We were doing so well. You said you needed time." "I did need time, Sarah," I replied, my eyes fixed on her. "Time to collect evidence. Time to understand the full extent of your betrayal. Time to prepare." Her panic was immediate, palpable. "Evidence? What are you talking about?" "Mark, I swear, it was just Gary. That one time. I told you." I calmly pulled out my tablet, which was connected to the large TV screen in the living room. "Let's review, shall we?" I tapped a few times, and the screen lit up with a collage of images. First, the messages and photos from her burner phone, featuring not just Gary, but several other men, explicitly detailing rendezvous and intimate conversations. Then, screenshots of the secret bank account, funded by gifts. Finally, the video footage from the hidden cameras, showing her sneaking out late at night. And then, the piece de resistance, a clip of Gary entering the house just 2 weeks prior, while she was supposedly visiting her sick aunt, and leaving several hours later. She watched, her jaw dropping, her eyes wide with horror and disbelief. No, Mark, you can't. How did you get this?" She stammered, her voice barely a whisper. The vibrant, glowing woman who'd returned from her retreat was gone, replaced by a terrified, cornered animal. My brutal revenge had begun. Her face was a masterpiece of dawning horror. She tried to deny it, of course, a desperate, pathetic attempt. "Those are fake. Photoshopped. You're trying to frame me, Mark. But her voice lacked conviction, trembling with genuine fear. The sheer volume and damning nature of the evidence on the screen, her own words, her own face, the undeniable timestamps, made her protests hollow. Fake, I responded, my voice dangerously calm. Is this fake, Sarah? I pressed a button, and the audio from one of her burner phone calls played through the living room speakers. It was her voice, clear as day, laughing as she described her weekend with one of her clients, gleefully detailing how she'd lied to me about the yoga retreat, and how Mark is so stupid, he believes anything. Her own words, her own cruel laughter, filled the room. The sound ripped through her composure. She collapsed onto the sofa, sobbing, no longer trying to fake remorse, but pure, unadulterated terror. Please, Mark, don't do this. You can't expose me. My job, my reputation. Please, she wailed. Your job? I finally let a cold, bitter laugh escape. Your reputation? Did you think about my reputation when you were bringing men into our bed? Did you think about my job, my life, our future, when you were calling me boring and stupid to your pathetic conquests? I walked over to the side table and picked up a neatly typed document. This, Sarah, I said, holding up the papers, is not just a divorce filing. It's a full declaration of the assets you've acquired through your extracurricular activities. It's a detailed account of your serial betrayals, complete with timestamps, names, and conversations. My lawyer has advised me to make this information public, if necessary, to ensure a fair and equitable division of assets, considering your egregious conduct. And trust me, it will be necessary if you don't cooperate fully. Her sobs intensified. She understood. She knew that her carefully constructed world was about to come crashing down. Her career, built on an image of professionalism and integrity, would be ruined. Her social standing, her friendships, all of it would vanish under the weight of this truth. She had brutalized me emotionally, and now I was retaliating in kind, hitting her where it hurt the most, her ego, her image, her perceived success. It was a cold, calculated strike, and the satisfaction, though laced with a lingering sadness, was undeniable. The transformation in her was stark and immediate. The bitchy, entitled Sarah vanished, replaced by a shell-shocked, terrified woman. Her pleas became desperate, bargaining. Mark, I'll give you anything. Take the house, take the money, just please don't expose me. But I wasn't interested in her pathetic offers of material possessions. This was about far more than money or property. This was about the systematic destruction of my trust, my sense of self, my entire future. You don't get it, Sarah, I said, my voice cutting through her desperate wails. This isn't just about assets. This is about accountability. About you facing the consequences of your actions, not just for me, but for them. I gestured vaguely at the screen, indicating the men whose identities I now knew. And for yourself. You need to look in the mirror and see who you really are. I gave her a non-negotiable ultimatum, signed the divorce papers, agreeing to terms that were heavily skewed in my favor, acknowledging her infidelity, and forfeit any claims to our joint retirement accounts, which I had been the primary contributor to anyway. In return, I wouldn't release the full, unredacted dossier to the public or her employer. I would keep the evidence locked away, a silent threat, a sword of Damocles hanging over her head. But I made it clear, I reserved the right to use it if she ever contested the divorce or tried to smear my name. She fought. She raged. She tried every manipulation tactic in her arsenal, but I held firm. For the first time in months, I felt entirely in control. My emotional impact was a complex mess of emotions, ranging from sadness to overwhelming joy, but eventually, after 2 days of relentless negotiation through our lawyers, she signed. The relief was immense, like a suffocating weight had been lifted from my chest. It wasn't happily ever after, but it was a beginning, a fresh start, forged in the fires of betrayal. I walked out of that lawyer's office, not a rich man, but a free one, free from her lies, her manipulation, and her toxic presence. The immediate aftermath of the divorce was surreal. The house, which had once felt like a cage, now felt empty. But it was my empty, my space, free from the insidious rod of her deception. She moved out, taking only her personal belongings, leaving behind a silence that was almost deafening, but infinitely preferable to her presence. The emotional journey from that point has been a roller coaster. The initial rush of vindication and the satisfaction of seeing her utterly broken gave way to a profound sense of exhaustion. I spent weeks just trying to recalibrate, to remember who I was without her, without the constant background noise of suspicion and anxiety. There were moments of intense loneliness, moments where I missed the idea of what we had, the comfort of routine. But those moments were quickly overshadowed by the searing memory of her betrayal and the realization that the person I missed never truly existed. I started therapy, not because I was broken in the way she might have wanted me to be, but because I needed to process the trauma, to understand how I allowed myself to be so thoroughly deceived for so long. It's been incredibly helpful. I've learned to trust my gut again, to identify red flags I previously ignored. I've started reconnecting with old friends, picking up hobbies I'd let slide. I even redecorated parts of the house, purging it of her taste, making it truly mine. The decision to move forward has been about radical self-care and rebuilding. It's not about finding someone new right now. It's about finding me. It's about healing, growing, and becoming stronger. There's a quiet strength now, a resilience forged in fire. I'm not the same Mark who walked in on her that day. I'm wiser, tougher, and fiercely protective of my peace.